So regulators are given these powers through the legislature, right? But then they actually have to try to measure the degree of monopoly power in an industry. So the way that it has been done traditionally, and this is actually part of the reason why antitrust activity waned so much, right? Was because of the fact that we went from this old way to a new way of measuring monopoly power and the degree of anti competitiveness. So, this old way is for us to use a 4-firm concentration ratio. A 4-firm concentration ratio is an early tool that measures the share of the total sales in the industry accounted by the largest firms. How many largest firms, right? Well, typically it's the top 4 to 8 firms. So the largest 4 to 8 firms, right? Not just any 4 to 8 firms. And so within the context of this concentration ratio, a couple of economists came up with a specific index, which we'll talk about now. The Herfindahl-Hirschman index. Otherwise known as the HHI. So this is an approach to market concentration by adding the square of the market share of each firm in the industry. So not just the top 4 or 8 firms, but for each industry that we have there. So let's go ahead and just real quickly do an example of the 4-firm concentration ratio. So I just had to do this recently because I got by the softball field. I parked next to the softball field, and the softballs killed my windshield. There wasn't even a note on it, you know, like, hey, sorry, your windshield's ruined. So I got by this. I had to replace my automobile windshields, right? So if we have some data on automobile windshield companies, right? If we know that, you know, Safelite or whatever has something like 16% of the market. And then if we have, you know, some other company, Auto Glass Doctor, if they've got 10%, if there's some other one, Your Car Shield, if that's 8%, and then if we're told that the next largest are, we have 7 firms, each with 6% of the market, and then the last bit, we've got 8 firms, each with 3%. So if we're asked for this 4-firm concentration ratio, we are literally just going to take the top 3, and then we don't have the name of the 4th, but really there's 7 people tied for 4th. We don't need the name. All we need is the percentage, right? So it's going to be 16 plus 10 plus 8 plus 6. So the 4-firm concentration ratio here is going to be 40.
Isn't it a little odd that we're combining 7 firms into one thing on thing? Because I'd imagine, like, if everyone ties for 8%, then everyone is going to be, you know, in the market. That concentration is going to control all of it. It's still fine because they all have 8%.
Like if if we didn't have any of this, and we just had 7 firms with 6% and 8 firms with 3%.
Yeah.
But I mean, if that were the case, then our 4-firm concentration ratio would just be 6 plus 6 plus 6 plus 6, right?
Okay.
So it'd end up being 24, which is significantly lower than the 40.
Okay.
So if we get rid of these large actors, then this concentration ratio is going to go down.
Okay.
Yeah, it's a weird way that it's presented. The other way we could present it is we could say, you know, this is the total 16%, 10%, 8%, 7 times 6 is going to be 42%, and then 3 times 8 is going to be 24%. I think they just did this so that it's comprehensively 100%. But oftentimes you're just going to see a list of the top firms and their market share percentages. You might be given their sales, and then you might be given the industry sales, and you might need to divide, right, the individual firm sales by the industry sales in order to get the percentage. That's pretty rudimentary, though. I don't think we have any problems with that. And then we just combine the 4 top firms' market shares. Good questions. Questions on how regulators used to measure the degree of monopoly power. Okay.